Everything Sequel is brought to you by Slater's 50/50 and To a T Fitness.
The Everything Sequel podcast contains explicit language, and I will not go to my room. To the Everything Sequel podcast, this is the Singles 1990 edition, Troll 2 today. My name is Michael Shantz of the How Dare You Awards. With me is my good friend and partner, Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions.
And you can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it.
Oh my God.
I mean, what a scene.
What a movie.
What a movie. Even better than that, there was a brief moment after that line takes place where the father who delivers the line starts to remove his belt. And I really thought he was going to piss over his own child.
Right.
In a kind of perverse version of the making a kid who's been caught smoking down an entire pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, that's the thing about this movie. You know, anything seems to be able to happen in your imagination.
That's right. Every time Grandpa Seth comes in, he's got a new rule that completely changes the film.
That changes everything. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let's get to it. Tom,
Yes.
we decided that for the calendar year of 1990, we were going to rank and declare good or bad for all the single sequels of that year.
Yes.
So dear listeners, if you've been listening to the previous podcasts, you know that we ranked them without having seen Troll 2.
It was a blind ranking.
Blind ranking. Tom and I had the top two exactly the same. We both said, that Gremlins 2 The New Batch was going to be the best of the bunch, and that Another 48 Hours was going to be the second best. We disagreed. After that, I said, I've seen the poster for Troll 2. I'm telling you, that's going to be the worst movie. I pick it below Young Guns 2. Tom said, no, my friend. Troll 2 over Young Guns 2. Tom.
Yes.
Standing pat?
Disappointingly, no.
Let me just say, I thought for sure you would stay pat because of how batshit crazy this movie is.
Yeah, I mean,
even though
it's tempting.
Objectively, it's worse.
Yeah, First of all, I'm gonna change my good or bad from good to bad
for this movie.
And I take no pleasure in doing this, but they forced my hand because I was hoping to put it there on the grounds of so bad it's good.
Right.
However, as the movie unfolded, I began to realize this is trying to be a comedy. And
is it though?
Yeah, I do. I think so. I think it's trying to be a comedy, and I think it is genuinely trying to do straight down the middle horror as well at times.
Yeah.
So I have to judge it on that level. And I just don't think there's enough that lands in either category,
right.
Even though this film definitely has its moments.
Oh, for sure.
To put it over the borderline into a good movie. And you know, when I think about classifying a movie as so bad it's good, the filmmaking needs to be sublimely bad for me to do that. And I just felt that the filmmaking here was kind of mildly incompetent in quite an irritating way.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, irritating. Like, it's just kind of bumbling in a way, you know, that mystifies you as you're watching it.
Yeah, so for all those reasons, I'm going from good to bad. However, I would still put it above Young Guns 2 because I had a better time. And, you know,
Oh, see, I thought you were going to list it below Young Guns 2. That's what I thought you were changing. So you're just changing good to bad.
I'm changing good to bad, but because it is, you know, batshit crazy. It's batshit crazy versus bland, and that I will always rank batshit crazy top. I
don't find Young Guns 2 nearly as bland as you two. I'm standing pat. I'm sticking with I'm not changing.
Either so you don't think it's a good. It sounded like you were at least a little changed about the good
Good,
bad.
bad. I'm of like mind with
Okay.
you. I find this movie delicious.
Yes.
It's a wonderful watch. I mean, for 3 days now, for however long it's been since I watched it, I've been walking around saying, "Let me tell you a little something about a movie called Troll 2. You need to see this movie." To anyone and everyone, strangers on the street wearing masks are running away from me. So I'm like, "Wait, just listen to me for a moment."
Yeah.
But like you said, objectively, it's just too messy. There's just too much bad for me to climb into. This is so bad it's good.
Yeah, I think it's caught, but it's caught between those two posts of deliberate and unintentional irony too often. I
Right.
think.
And I think
my notes are like almost 50-50 split between look at how bad the quality control on this movie is versus that's a really good comic bit. I'll say that without any qualifications.
right.
So
Agreed.
it's like it's I think I don't know, especially with comedy, but you need like a 75% landing to not landing ratio to even consider it as a good movie.
Okay, yeah, I would go with that. I hear what you're saying. So
And horror I think is probably even more,
yeah, correct.
because what scares you is probably one of the hardest things to do on film.
And this film does not do it.
It doesn't scare me; it repulses me. That's where I was willing to give it some credit as a horror movie.
I'll go
is that
along
I
with you
felt
on that.
Physically sick.
It's
at several points
physically,
in the movie.
yeah, it does make you lurch. It makes you, ooh.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of, for those who haven't seen it, there's a lot of sour milk in this film.
right, there's a lot of sour milk and the least appetizing dessert treats you'll ever see in your life.
I'm sure we'll get into this, but what did they think that green
Right.
icing was on everything that they were eating?
Because it was even part of sandwiches.
You wouldn't just ignore that if you were eating something.
Right. When the kid's in the car with the sheriff, they try to cover it. He actually takes a bite. He goes, "Oh, this is really good. Thanks, Sheriff." So they present it as though we're not crazy. It does taste good.
Although there is and I think we'll get into this too, there is a kind of pro junk food diatribe here.
Oh, for sure.
Which makes me think like,
Well, okay, so sorry, go ahead.
well, that they're actively trying to promote, putting food coloring and everything.
I think that's part of it. So I've got an entire list that I want to start with you, Tom Stewart.
All right, let's do it.
So tidbits into how this movie got made.
Okay.
And one of them is that the director's wife helped him write the script, and this script was her idea. And the idea came to her when her friends became vegetarians.
Oh my God.
So this explains a lot. Yeah, this explains a lot about this movie just right there. But
do you know? I'll give you an insight into some of what I wrote during the viewing of this movie. I started off by saying, "Oh, this seems like it's having a go at vegetarians." Thinking that's a funny thing I could say on the podcast, get a cheap laugh. Then about like an hour later, I'm like, no, I really think this movie is an attack on vegetarianism. Right.
It's not.
And then
they find it
when
not
the movie
acceptable.
Culminated with when the villains are defeated with a bologna sandwich, I'm like, okay, there's no question anymore.
Defeated with a bologna sandwich. Which, okay, no, I'm not even going to bring that up. We'll talk about that later, because
yeah.
This magical backpack. Okay, hang on. Everybody, hold, please. Just stick with us. Tom, in addition to this wife thing, all right, Here are my notes as gathered from IMDb. For starters, this movie is called Troll 2.
Yes.
There is absolutely no connection to the movie Troll.
I'm glad that you cleared that up because let me tell you, I started to do that research and I got about a paragraph into the synopsis of Troll, and I thought, you know what, Michael's probably going to do this. Because I
got your back.
Like, if there is a connection, it's going to be like, I'm going to have to be like, forensic to find it.
Let me tell you, my friend, you do. Because, okay, so this movie has no connection to the movie Troll. So much so, there are no trolls in this movie. It's only goblins and a witch.
Oh, good point.
Right?
Yeah, they never called them trolls.
No, they are not trolls. They are goblins. They are goblins in the town of Nilbog.
Which is goblin
Try
backwards.
to decipher that one, ladies and gentlemen. Shouldn't be difficult. Okay, so
you can only find that out if you're looking for your dead grandpa in a mirror.
As we all do.
As we all do.
So, in addition, the entire cast of principal actors initially auditioned to be extras. Explains a lot. The director, whose name is Claudio Vargaso,
Mm-hmm.
but is listed on the credits of the movie itself as Drake Floyd, which I imagine is Claudio's idea of a solid American name, Drake Floyd.
Drake Floyd is the European Alan Smithy.
Exactly. Yeah. So, this man, Claudio Vargaso, is an Italian, does not speak English, and writes poor English, but wrote the script.
Right.
So there's there's just sort of, it's worded strangely, a lot of the words. And the American actors would say, hey, can I change this to this? Because it would sound like that in English. And he forbid it. No. Word for word.
Is that why the kid in the opening scene questions his grandpa's use of verbs?
Probably.
It's not, you mean could, not can.
Right.
No, I mean
can.
That sounds like they just transposed a conversation between the director and one of the actors into the script.
All right, hang on. I got a few more for you. The whole movie was shot in 3 weeks. Says a lot. The actors were given scenes or given the script on a scene-by-scene basis, having no context for what happened before or after unless they already shot it.
Got it.
Not only was Claudio Vargaso Italian and didn't speak any English, the entire crew was Italian. Nobody spoke English, except the costume designer, Laura Gemser, who apparently was the star of the softcore porn Emmanuelle series at one point. But my favorite fact, Conan O'Brien is a big fan of this movie.
That makes sense.
Doesn't it?
I mean, it's sort of his family history. Right?
As he self-describes it often. If you listen to his podcast, they're all like feral animals trying to eat in his home in Boston. His mom would look at him and call him ham fat, or not his mom, somebody else. His mom calls him pigeon pie, but somebody in his family, I believe, would call him ham fat.
This is Conan O'Brien's biopic.
So Conan O'Brien, call in, brother.
Wow.
We'll do an addendum to this podcast. We'll hash it out with you.
Yeah, absolutely. You're invited.
All right.
Warmly by telling you your family history is a horror story. Yeah, I don't know where to start with that. I mean, there are a lot of famous actors in this movie on the posters of the children's walls.
Yeah.
But the actual cast themselves are complete unknowns, and it doesn't surprise me to learn that they were first considered as extras.
Right.
I gotta say it's pretty impressive for 3 weeks. and they really packed it in. This is not a slow movie by any means.
No.
Or a movie that feels like it's incomplete or laborious.
Agreed. It's just, well, let's talk about just how it starts. I mean, this movie, my note is, boy, does this movie ever fucking start. No credits, just a boy running in the forest with narration. Boom.
You've given me so many facts there. I just want to take a moment, okay?
By all means.
That is longer than this movie gives you before it starts. That 2-second gap there is longer. This is what they invented, what I'd like to term a hot cold open.
Right.
It's a cold open, but it comes in hot. Nobody shouted action on that set. It just began.
Yeah, it's like the actors just started and Claudio Vergasa was like, "Holy shit, get the camera."
Oh, man alive. Yeah, no, I had exactly the same note. And the other thing that surprised me about how abruptly this movie begins is that, most horror movies will give you, in the first, I don't know, quarter of an hour, will give you a glimpse of the monster.
Right.
Especially if they're trying to hide the fact that they don't look very good. This movie has exactly the opposite philosophy. We see all of the monsters that we will see in the course of the movie.
Real eyes
running around.
Real eyes behind the cutout eyes of their masks.
Yeah. And they're just out there frolicking around.
Well, that's the thing, too, is that essentially what's happening at the beginning of this movie is a group of ravenous goblins are chasing a young man who, by the way, that guy totally looks like one of the guys from Suits time traveled back to make this movie in 1990. I would swear it's a guy from Suits. But anyway, ravenous goblins are chasing this young, handsome man, and yet the music is... Yeah,
it's like... If I close my eyes, I would immediately say game show.
Yeah, right.
It's definitely not horror movie music.
No.
And you know what's interesting about this section of the movie is the monsters of the movie seem really fun. In inverted commas, hero of the movie,
I'm with you,
who just by the by is a time-stopping ghost of a dead grandpa.
Right.
Who has complete access to all the goblin mythology he needs to fight them from somewhere.
Of course.
If those goblins turned up at my house, I would let them in, start frolicking with them immediately. If Grandpa Seth tried to come in my house, I would blow that motherfucker up. That guy, that is the scariest man.
If he came,
in movie history.
Right, if he came into your house, you would immediately call the woman from Poltergeist to make that house clear.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if this is the kind of what do you call it? The subtext of the movie that Grandpa Seth is really the monster of this movie. But there are not many grandfathers who would take a break from reading their grandson a bedtime story to tell him that all the evil in the world is essentially nihilistic.
And coming soon.
Yes.
To a bedroom near you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are barely getting started with Troll 2, and we got to take a break. So stick with us, and we'll get into the meat of this meaty movie, but veggie?
The vegetable world.
The veggie meaty movie. All right, hang tight, everyone. We'll be right back. Look, people, we're living in strange times. We know that, don't we? Of course we do. People don't even know what to do with themselves. We're getting stir crazy. Well, get outside and get yourself some great food, I say. You need to go to Slater's 50/50 in Point Loma's Liberty Station. It's time to treat yourself to booze, to beer, to burgers, and more. They have their full menu, people. Their full menu, I say. How many restaurants do you know that are doing that? Most places are doing a quarter of their menu, probably. Some might be doing a half. Maybe a few have got 3/4 of the menu. But Slater's 50/50 has their full menu, including their signature 50/50 patty. It's half ground beef. It's half ground bacon. It's 100% delicious. What more could you possibly ask? Worried about social distancing? Well, it is in place, people. Tables are separated, and the staff will always be seen wearing masks. You're out of excuses. Get off your keister and come on down to Liberty Station's own Slater's 50/50. Indoor dining available. Outdoor dining available. Bring the family. Bring your dog. Come enjoy the normal again. Good day to you. I said good day. And we're back. We're here talking about the 1990, I'm going to go ahead and say classic, Troll 2, directed by Claudio Vargaso. Tom, this movie had a budget of $6 million, and I have no idea how much money this movie made. But I got to tell you, I don't see $6 million on the screen.
It was all in 7-Eleven receipts. and then what really broke the bank was the one trip they took to the erotic bakery.
Correct. Absolutely. All right, so, with a lot of our movies, I assume that at some point, listeners have seen the movie, right?
You'd hope, yeah.
Yeah, usually we're talking about things, oh yeah, I remember that now, or that kind of thing. Now we're I highly recommend you go watch this movie, listeners, and then come back and listen to this.
Yeah, I mean...
I suppose you could reverse it.
This will sound like a fever dream if you haven't seen the movie.
Right. So for the sake of our listeners who haven't seen the movie, because you could reverse it, they could listen to this first, and it makes them want to watch it.
Yeah.
What's the plot of this movie?
What's the plot of this movie?
What happens?
Well, basically, there's it starts with a child who is being visited by a child of a nice suburban family, visited by the ghost ?
Yeah, when I find out he's a ghost, my first question is this a story about a boy with dementia?
This one of the things that really impressed me about this movie right out of the gate is it managed to do the twist from The Sixth Sense in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Right. Years before The Sixth Sense comes out.
So this basically it's a imagine. Here's how
it's
I
a vacation movie, right? It's a vacation movie.
It's like a literally nightmarish version of National Lampoon's Vacation.
All right. Done.
So there's a house swap between...
There's a house swap, right, which I found to be hilarious.
Yeah, with a family who are either creepy or just exhibiting the same kind of stilted acting that everyone has. It's difficult to tell.
It's hard to tell if they're mentally disabled, murderers, or bad actors.
Now, I'm not directly answering your question here, Michael, but I'd like to take a moment to talk about the patriarch of our central family here. I am not sure if this man has recently had a lobotomy. There is a scene in which he picks up a book about vegetables, and it looks like this is the first time he has seen, not just read, seen a book in his entire life.
Right.
He is making some very strange decisions.
Maybe he's just a meat eater. Maybe he's leafing through it just like, fucking vegetables.
Well, that is the subtext. So anyway, so there's a house swap between a family from a remote country town, again, ? And the suburbs somewhere. The house swap's taking place, but the family that they're swapping with in the country do not leave, but they go to a local bar where lots of farmers hide throughout the day. When apparently farmers go to bed about 2:30 in the afternoon, according to the father of the family.
Correct.
which I've always known to be true. You go to any farming town after about 3 in the afternoon, everyone's asleep.
Everyone's dead asleep. It's nap time.
And they don't stay, and the youngest male child of the family has already been forewarned through a sinisterly annotated bedtime story from his deceased grandfather, who is reappearing to him, that goblins exist. That he tells them all the rules about the goblins, which change on a scene-by-scene basis.
Correct.
They are shapeshifters. That's a big one. Later we find out he can
that
stop
is a big
time. And then there's a magic stone which appears in the last quarter of the movie, as hitherto undiscussed.
It felt very Land of the Lost.
Yes.
I mean, I thought a Sleestak was going to come out between those rocks for sure.
Every time Grandpa Seth appears, he has a new rule that needlessly complicates the movie. That's his job.
Right. But essentially, boiled down to its essence, everyone, one family is supposed to be swapping houses with another family. They travel to the town of Nilbog. Apparently, all the farmers in Nilbog, this is, I guess, how they lure people to this town, is through house swaps, so that they can turn them into plants and eat them.
Right.
Correct?
Yes, and they're all goblins, ?
They're all goblins, ? And they're all cannibals, but vegetarians.
Well, I think they're just fussy eaters. Because you find out later on in the movie that one of the rules that's exhibited earlier is you have to eat before you're eaten. So a lot of this movie is about the goblins trying to feed the people that they want to eat. And I thought that
that's to turn them into vegetables.
Well, I thought this was some kind of like magical rule, right? I thought this was some sort of mystical thing. Like a spell or something. Eat before you. It sounds like a kind of eat before you're eaten. A kind of like that's the only way that this process works. Turns out it's just about breaking the meat down so it's nicer to eat. Like they could eat them at any time. They just choose not to because it tastes better when they eat the food. They eat.
Is that it though? Is it really that it tastes better? It's hard. Like I don't think the movie makes this very clear.
Well, that's it. I mean, I was under the impression that it was just like everything else in this movie was just a randomly expressed world rule that had no logic behind it. But in the final quarter of the movie, I'm sure someone says, "Look, we're just gonna wait to eat you because it tastes better. We could take you now. Otherwise, what's the threat?"
Yeah,
because it would just be like, "Okay, we won't eat and we'll leave."
Well, it just and the thing that's really confusing to me about this movie, like there's one thing, but these goblins are luring people into their town. Is this literally the only? They made it seem like it's like they're having a hard time getting the nutrients that they need, or something. Wasn't there something to that in this movie of, just like how many people do you
vitamin D
do you trick into? Yeah, like how many people do you trick into coming to the town of Nilbog? To house swap into, like computers weren't like they were today, but how did this happen? Did he open up a newspaper and he's like, look at this picture of this dirty, shitty farm. Let's go there for vacation, everyone.
Well, I mean, that is not uncharacteristic of the dad of this family.
That's true.
It seems like his overarching goal is to historically enslave his family in some kind of Amish utopia in his mind.
Yeah, I mean, and also, I mean, bad decisions abound with this dad because you have this whole kind of a subplot about his daughter and the boyfriend.
Her playboy boyfriend, as the dad wrongly says about him.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I love that when they leave for this vacation, And it, by the way, has not been set up in advance that the boyfriend's coming.
Oh, I
But
mean,
but dad is upset at his daughter, not saying to her, "Of course your 15-year-old boyfriend can't come with us on our vacation, sleeping in the same bedroom with you," or whatever was clearly her plan. He's upset because he had to wait an hour and a half for him to show up. After learning, I assume in the morning, that she wanted him to come.
this movie has a real problem with establishing story. I mean, this bleeds into the filmmaking itself. In that scene that you're describing where they're driving to Nilbog, at the scene.
I think I know where you're going. Go ahead.
The scene begins with the father castigating his daughter for,
Correct.
Like, we waited an hour and a half for your boyfriend, and
who I should not be allowing on this trip.
And then the mother says, "Shut up, you two. We have only seen that one person is in the back of this car." And then suddenly it's like, "Oh, there are two people in the back." I mean, I assume that was the case, but there's no visual evidence that is.
But there's no There's no establishing shot to tell you as the audience member.
So maybe that is a general problem here of where, I mean, maybe it is the case that they had a narcoleptic editor who's kind of woke up 2 seconds into each scene.
Oh Jesus! I better.
It's like,
I'm sure
I included that shot. It'll be.
But
fine.
I thought what you were going to say was because right after castigating the daughter, they're driving down the road, and the son says, "Stop!" Yeah. And he gets out of the minivan and runs down the road to who he thinks is his grandfather, but who in reality is a homeless man.
Right.
The parents never get out of the car and say, "Get away from that man." They just wait for him to realize it's not his grandfather, and they're like, "What are you doing?"
Well, I would give that kid a break, because that homeless man really looks like Grandpa Seth, and this kid has just lost his grandfather.
No, but my point is the parents, who can plainly see it's a homeless man, they're not worried. They don't get out of the car. They don't go get their boy away from a dangerous weirdo.
Yes.
They're just like, "Can we go now? Get back in the car."
Yeah.
I mean, they're bad parents, these two.
Yeah, they really are, and it makes it hard for you to want them to survive.
Right. And I forgot about something. I have a note here because within the scope of our story, we're starting to skip ahead. But the night before they leave, the boyfriend sneaks into the house in a really weird scene, by the way.
Oh, my God.
The young girl's working out. She must be 14 or 15.
We have
the camera.
It begins with a training montage with no stakes.
Yeah. With no stakes, but like 14-year-old girl clearly being sexualized by Claudio Vargasso's camera.
Yeah.
It's like sweaty chest, legs, pumping iron. Whew. It's really uncomfortable. And then the boyfriend shows up. She's mad at him, and he says something stupid, and she hits him right in the nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And his question is, "Are you trying to turn me into a homo?" As if getting hit in that's the causation of it.
Yeah, to me, I noted that scene was like two characters from Waiting for Guffman doing an audition piece from Nightmare on Elm Street. But you know what really saves that scene? I mean, and also the daughter is looking at cue cards the entire time. Which speaks to your note about them getting the script on a scene by scene basis. She's just straight reading this off screen.
It's the kind of
it's like SNL,
so
when they have because they're angled it just the way that they can see cue cards across each other.
I made a note that it's really strange to watch a movie in which the feeling you have is when you go to a youth play that's not particularly good.
Absolutely.
That's what it felt like.
When we get later on in the movie, when we get to the town meeting house,
Right.
this building is being used as a community theater, where they are currently performing a production of the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
It would appear so.
You know, I think,
But it's the kind of acting. It's the kind of acting where you hear, you know, the daughter saying things like, "I don't know what you're talking about. My dad's not going to like that." And you're patient as much as you can be.
it's not.
But yet it's like alluring. You find yourself kind of leaning forward at a certain point. It's mesmerizing.
It's not a good sign when the mother forgets her lines in the middle of a scene very early on in the movie, and they just carry on. They just leave it in the film.
They just leave it.
And then the cue cards. What?
That's the take. That's the take they kept.
That's the take they kept. But what struck me about the acting and the community theater thing is very clear. I think if Carl Reiner had seen the set of that meeting house, and if they had made that for him for The Man with Two Brains, he'd be like, nope, too broad. But in terms of the acting, what really struck me is, just how awful some of the acting is. But I was actually, there was 2 or 3 performances, well, no more than that I was really impressed with. The unevenness really struck me, that there can be people so awful, and yet the kid in this movie is very compelling to watch.
He is completely.
I have never seen an actor of his age hit his marks as well. I mean, it comes across more strongly because everyone else is missing their marks, and every time anyone moves on camera,
Right.
it's to put another actor on their mark or in better light. But still, there's a preacher character who comes in about 3/4.
That's who I was gonna say. I find him very compelling.
Who gives an extraordinary performance. And you know who I really like, and this might be controversial. The boyfriend's 3 friends.
Yes.
I think that really works because the whole point of them is they are supposed to be annoying in 3 entirely different ways.
Right.
Done.
But the friends are the best actors maybe in this movie.
They're really good. I mean, what do you expect? One of them is Jack McBrayer, but so that's already a high quality of performance. No, I loved that. I mean, and this scene what we're talking about is where they first appear at the window in a classic, Three Stooges style, popping up at the window at the same time.
Completely. Right.
So it's that uneven, and that's true with the filmmaking quality as well. Like sometimes I think about how god awful, well, I guess goblin awful, the little dwarf goblins look, and their masks.
Yeah.
And then when we get to some of the prosthetics that they use when Arnold is turned into a plant, I'm like, that's not bad.
Yeah, that looks pretty good.
That looks pretty good, especially in comparison to. And also, there's a sliding scale of how bad those goblins look. It goes from like
Yes, there are. Yeah, you're right.
awful to just
Middling.
garbage. Like just
Yeah.
papier-mâché rotting in the cellar.
Absolutely. All right, we're gonna take another break. Stick with us. We're coming back. We're gonna finish out this movie. I'm going to sing you out, audience. I'm going to sing you out to the moms. She at one point says, "Kids, sing that song I like." And they all. Does the coronavirus have you feeling oogie? Have you been sitting on your couch for weeks? Nay, have you been sitting on there for months? Well, it's time for you to get back in shape. Check out 2AT Fitness. You can find them on Instagram. You can find them on Facebook. 2AT Fitness was started by Tina Bernard. She is ready and raring to go to help you get back into the shape you want to get into. They've got all kinds of classes. They've got outdoor in-person classes. They've got online classes if that's what you prefer. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get back in shape. You're going to find a variety of exercises. You're going to have strength training, cardio, weightlifting, even fun 5-minute burnouts that will push you to your limits. So get off the couch get into shape. Go ahead and check out Tua T Fitness. Tina Bernard has got you for all your needs. I know her personally. She's fantastic. You're not going to meet a better person to help you become the new you. Check it out. And we're back. We're here talking about Troll 2, Tom and I. We just got done. Well, I think, Tom, we've kind of covered the basic plot of the movie, how this family gets to the town. If we haven't mentioned it already, the boyfriend with the 3 friends, they end up following the family, and their RV breaks down, right?
That is correct, yeah.
And then we get into what I like to describe as the fucking shit of this movie. And I mean that
I don't know, it's been pretty it's been pretty wild so far.
I mean that in the best possible way.
First of all, before we get there, no, I don't want to hold us up, but can I just talk about when the kid falls asleep in the car and has what is clearly a dream because it's too early in the movie to be the big thing.
To be anything else, right.
They do not hold back on the body horror and visceral terror of what this kid is dreaming about happening to him.
Not even a little bit.
They're just like, we're basically going to do the denouement of this movie as a dream sequence in the first 50 minutes.
It's unsettling.
And it works, it works. If it works better than the actual denouement of the movie.
Right. It is actually probably the scariest thing in the movie.
100%, yeah. And again, that kid is selling it in a way that he's not allowed to later because he's holding a bologna sandwich.
So you have that, but we're not there yet. Hang on. Because what I want to talk about is when they finally get into the house, they're seeing what to them looks like delicious treats.
Right.
But I would feel,
which it would to a lobotomy victim.
Yeah. I mean, I would feel alarmed if I walked into a house and there were cakes that it all looked like it'd been sitting there for hours waiting for them.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
it seems
years.
It just looks like something you should be wary of.
Yeah.
But the magic of that scene, first of all, you have this, I mean, I'm talking, Tom Stewart, I'm talking, what, 30, 45 seconds, full 30, 45 seconds of them slowly walking around the table, looking at, oh my goodness, all these treats.
Yes, when in the next scene, Grandpa Seth suddenly tells us that he can stop time. You don't really see much of a difference.
Well, and that's the thing. So, okay, listeners, what happens is the treats are out, left by the farmers, but if they eat them, they're going to turn into plants so that the goblins can eat them. Spoiler alert, the farmers are goblins.
Yeah.
Then what's his name? Grandpa who?
Grandpa Seth.
Seth. I keep wanting to say Munster for some reason.
Movie.
Yeah. Grandpa stops time.
Yeah.
The boy wastes he says I can only stop time for 30 seconds.
In my mind, Grandpa Seth can stop time, and then it turns out that he didn't need to do that after all.
Right. In my mind, I just keep saying, grab all the food and throw it out, child. Instead, he just walks around the table, and then everybody wakes up to him saying, I gotta do it. Pulling down the zipper, pissing on the food. Strong choice.
A strong choice, and full comic effect because we don't see it happening.
Yeah.
We just see the aftermath where he's being punished for... and
being a dick.
Described verbally, with our opening line from this episode, you can't piss on hospitality.
Right.
I won't allow it. In fact, if anything, in that period where time has stopped, more has happened than in the rest of the scene.
Correct.
Because you can actually see, I don't know if you noted this, but when time is paused, the dad is holding a glass of juice to his mouth. Mm-hmm. And you can see actively bubbles appearing from his breath while he's doing that.
Right.
Also, this creates problems later when we're repeatedly told that this family have not eaten for 2 days. Okay, and bear in mind the daughter is frozen in
Right.
time with a corn cob in her mouth.
Indeed.
So this is the continuity error waiting to happen.
Corn is huge in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it is. There is a sex
There's a
scene based
sexy
around corn.
There's
later
a
in the
sexy there's a sexy corn cob dance in this
movie,
movie.
which that was one of the moments where I thought,
Followed by erotic popcorn humping is the only way I can describe
this
it.
movie is great at making cinematic lemonade out of what are essentially grocery store buys.
Well, like you said, 7-Eleven trips.
Yeah, so sour milk, corn cobs, popcorn. I mean, yeah, like I don't know how this amounts to 6 million, but everything that you need to make this movie terrifying or funny or when it registers can all be bought from the grocery store. It's a very thrifty kind of horror.
Yeah.
But it is, and like the slime in this movie, which plays a big part, this green slime, it's the least scary thing in and of itself.
Right.
So many people have seen retching this slime.
Mm-hmm.
It's seen pouring out of every fucking orifice.
Of pores on their heads.
Yeah, it's like
they're sweating
it's like, in context, it becomes scary. It becomes, well, no, I wouldn't say scary. It becomes disgusting.
Right.
And that is the job of, it's like, the metaphor of turning a corn cob into popcorn.
And so, by the way, everyone, this is the shit you're seeing in this movie, but it also at times will be followed by lines. I can't even remember who says this, Tom. I think it's the little boy who at one point says, "There must be a logical reason for all this."
At one point as well, when they arrive at the house...
Wait, logic? Not a part of this movie at all. Go on.
But the movie has these kind of like almost like spasms of logic. At one point, the Grandpa Seth is he's summoned by the kid, and he doesn't turn up straight away. And the kid's like, "Where were you?" And he's like, "I haven't got used to the layout of this house yet."
That's right.
It's like we have this insight into the logistical
things are a little-
nightmare of haunting
things are a little
family.
janky
It's like,
here.
"What? No, we're appearing in the wrong room." I mean,
Well, that's exactly what happened to me when he said that. I kept imagining him appearing in other mirrors and going, "Oh, nope, not here."
but also when they first arrive at the house, I think the kid says something along the lines of, "I don't like this at all." Yeah, no question.
Of course. Why would you?
You just had the worst ever nightmare that you will ever have in your life.
Ever. There's a lot of that kind of shit in this movie when the boyfriend and his friends are broken down and then one of them sees this beautiful girl. So he starts
Chasing her.
this woman runs, he starts chasing her. He tackles her to the ground. They get up, see a charging herd of goblins, which does not faze him.
No.
He's just sort of like, But the girl convinces him, "Let's fucking get out of here." They start running again. He gets what I can only describe as part Triton, part javelin thrown into his chest from 50 yards
For everyone
away.
listening, Mike is describing this accurately. The fault is not on our side.
No, yeah. This is exactly as it happens.
Everything about that scene.
Oh,
I mean, it is not okay, even
It's
in
pure
a teen
magic.
sex comedy, which this is not, to chase a woman down, flatten her,
A stranger.
and then ask her name. And
I'm going full Bubba Smith. I'm going full Bubba Smith on this chick. Kabow! What's your name?
This is like my favorite of the Friends, who I like all of them, but Arnold is the favorite of my friends.
Me too.
First of all, the fact that like basically, I get where Arnold's coming from when he's not phased, because he's just assuming that this is a bunch of dwarfs in costume running around, because that's exactly what they look like.
Because that's what it is.
And they're not scary. Remember, Grandpa Seth is the only terrifying threat in this movie.
At all.
And then when he screams when that implement goes in him. It's heard in the RV, and no, hang on. Yeah, no, they say that wasn't the scream of a woman. That was Arnold. Right. And I'm like, that is a generous assessment of how shrill that sound was.
Right. And it feels like they're miles away. And he gets the javelin. I can't remember. Does the javelin stay stuck or does he pull it out?
Yeah, pull it out.
Okay. Pulls it out and then runs to objectively the strangest fucking church I've ever seen in my life.
This is the meeting house you're talking about?
No. The witch's house where the stone is.
Okay. Right. Got it.
And he and the girl run up there. They meet. I can't remember if this is the first time we're meeting the witch or not.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Okay. And
an early screen performance from post Tim Burton Helena Bonham Carter.
This is a performance. The witch performance to me it does go so bad it's good for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's
I love her.
Like imagine Little Shop of Horrors without music and without the production values of Roger Corman.
Right.
You've basically got what is going on inside this witch's castle. Oh yeah, she's awful. She's this like it's like if you imagine going back to a previous movie we did in this series, if you imagine what was the name of the female boss in Gremlins 2? What was her name? Tanya or something like that. The redhead with glasses.
I just think of her as Caroline from 16 Candles.
Okay, Caroline from 16 Candles played exactly the same, but with no deliberate choices.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
It's insane, and
yeah. And she is the one, by the way. She is the one who does the sexy corncob dance.
Yeah, which I mean, up until the point where the corn start. I mean, I gotta say, she's up against it acting-wise in that scene. First of all, there's too much music, then no music at all.
Right.
But even in that scene, I was like, there is no sex scene in cinema that I have been less aroused by
ever
than this one. And it's almost as if, you know, I'm like, it's not that she's not attractive, or that the concept of like being seduced by a witchy woman isn't a sexy one. So I'm like,
sure.
So what's missing here? And I'm like,
we've all thought about it. We've all thought about it. Let's be clear.
Apparently, I have, because it just rolled off my tongue.
But it never involved corn.
Yeah, and then they save it by probably the best visual gag in the movie, which is they start eating corn cobs, and then it's so steamy, apparently, that the corn turns into popcorn, which is great. And
but that one corn on the cob fills up that entire fucking RV with popcorn.
Right. Well, you know, that's $6 million worth of popcorn there, Mike. You saw the budget.
So, I have to tell you, I mean, we're basically getting to the end. They're at the witch's house. There's a stone in the house. At one point, she says, "Lord of the Magical Rock."
Yeah.
There's some sort of connection between the rock and magic, and this is where our heroes all have to go to destroy the rock, I guess.
Well, Grandpa Seth comes in as well, and he's like, "Come on, you got to get the magic stone," as if this is something that has been discussed before.
Before ever at all. But my favorite thing is, so he gives him this backpack, right? He gives the boy a backpack. He says to him...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about the magic backpack.
The magic backpack. So I had so much forgotten about the backpack that when the boy takes out the bologna sandwich to win the day, I wrote down, where the fuck did he get that sandwich? And then I looked at my note above it. That said, is that a magic backpack?
Well, you know, you don't just introduce a magic bologna sandwich. It needs to be encased in something that will preserve the mystery of this holy item.
But the best part about the magic backpack is that Grandpa doesn't explain to him what's in it. He just hands him the magic backpack and says, only take out the contents when you need them. Do you understand? And the boy nods his head. Yes, I wanted him to so desperately just to say, nope.
Well,
I don't have a fucking clue what you're talking about.
He learned very early on in this movie that you do not question Grandpa Seth.
True.
The entire first scene of this movie is, this is a situation that I'm familiar with, reading a child a bedtime story, and they keep interrupting. And Grandpa Seth is telling the kid things. He's got a lot of notes. He's got, they transpose the notes on the first draft of the script into dialogue that's coming out of his mouth. He's questioning everything, as indeed are we. And every question he asks, he basically gets the same answer, which is, what I said was what I said.
Yeah, right, exactly.
These are the rules of the world. I will give you a new one about every 20 minutes. So
don't you
the
listen?
Kid knows by now. He's like, if Grandpa Seth is saying magic backpack, I'm not gonna talk back to him and say,
oh, I better not fucking question it.
In fact, in that scene, the kid is actually quoted as saying, okay, I won't interrupt you anymore.
Yeah, he does.
So, right. That's one of the areas in which this movie's fairly consistent. I think it's like he learns at this point. And by the way, as a parent with a young child, I am taking Grandpa Seth's advice to heart. Next time my kid asks me a question about the book, I'll be like, I just said it! No questions! These are the rules! And hopefully he'll respond, okay, I won't interrupt you anymore.
Yes. I'm sure that will not yield the necessity of therapy. By the way, I feel like I need therapy after watching this movie. This movie was actually triggering for me. This is a minor thing, but do you remember when at the very beginning of the movie when the boy's talking to Grandpa and there is behind him an NBA basketball lamp?
Not specifically, but yes.
Well, I had that lamp when I was a kid. And it used to be in my room that I shared with my younger brother. And then at one point we put it in the office room. And I have a clear vision of us playing sock tag one night, which is just, a rolled up ball of socks and you are it when it is beamed at you.
Patent pending.
So, yeah, we just... Trademark. Back off. Back the fuck off. We're chasing each other all over the house. I threw this sock at my younger brother. I believe he ducked and dodged. He went over, picked it up, started chasing me. I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make the rules of the game very clear because I didn't even hit him, and yet he somehow magically was still it. But at any rate.
Did Grandpa Seth suddenly appear and say, okay, rule change?
He did not. He did not. But in the ruckus, we apparently had managed to knock that NBA lamp over, and it started a fire that we did not know about, that my parents came home to when we were in bed asleep. Not like the wall was on fire or anything, but like the lamp itself was on fire, and it had knocked over into, I don't know, a basket with some papers or something, and it was on the lamp itself, like the shade was on fire. And so our parents...
Please tell me you pissed on this fire, too.
I wish I had. I didn't even know. Our parents came home and put out the world's smallest fire. And then, of course, we woke up to, kids, could you come over here? What the fuck is this? It was the burnt lamp.
Whoa.
So this movie was triggering.
I get that. Wow. Well, thank you
Just
for sharing
saying.
that. Yeah.
I also have a note here. I'm trying to think of what it refers to. I think I do know. There's a moment where the boy tells him they all have to touch the rock.
Yes.
In order to destroy everything, or the rock itself, I guess it is. He says, we need the power of goodness. And I remember thinking, one person in this family, it probably should be the little boy, should be looking at his parents and everybody and just say, oh, we're fucked.
Yeah.
If we need the power of goodness, we're completely screwed.
I mean, it's unlikely in the production circumstances of this film that they had time for subtext. But but I'm happy to impose one on, which is that the goblins are the heroes and the family are the villains. From Grandpa Seth at one point, and one of my main motivations for thinking this is at one point the preacher says very clearly to Grandpa Seth, "Go to hell," and the movie does not dispute this.
Right.
And it makes total sense that Grandpa Seth is coming back
because he's
from
a
hell.
piece of shit.
Yeah. I mean, it explains why he's, knows so much about evil. And why he is evil. And why he commits worse acts than the monsters in this movie.
It's as though he went to hell and Satan said, "Read this. It's about goblins."
Yeah.
But in the strange choice category, the last minute of this movie, in the last minutes, when they finally get home,
yeah,
they get to their own home. They've been through the worst ordeal possible. And the father says, "I got to go to the office for a second."
Right. I mean,
what the fuck?
Yeah, and again, reading on a subtextual level, the father is learning disabled. So I think you just have to accept that. It's
I don't believe he has a job.
No, I don't.
B, I can't imagine he's competent enough to be needed right now. C, I can almost buy he has to go in for the weekend only if it's something he already screwed up.
Right, yeah, exactly. They also, something that struck me when they get home, I mean, there's a lot, but one of the things that none of these characters have eaten in the entire time that this movie takes place.
Right.
That's what we're asked to believe. I mean, we've also seen them digging into corn cobs, but so, yeah, I don't know who to believe.
But they should be malnourished.
But they've had very, very little. So a couple of things. One is like, you can survive for 7 days, like without food,
believe
something like that. But after 2, you're not going to be able to do things like driving long distances.
No, certainly not without irritability
and
rearing its ugly head.
Second of all, the first choice of a food to eat is apples.
Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna take care of that itch.
Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna scratch that itch.
Mom's sitting there eating apples and trying to convince the son to eat apples. And he's, I'm fine.
Oh yeah, that's right. I totally forgot about that. He goes, "No, I'm good." It's like, yeah, you haven't eaten for 48 hours.
You haven't eaten,
of course,
in days.
Wow.
Also, Mom dies at the end? She must, because I have a note here that says, "Mom's dead tits."
Are you reading from like the first draft of the script? Is that like an editor's note?
I don't know.
Like, "Mom dies at the end?" ?
But I do remember. I remember goblins coming back and the boy running around the house.
Yeah. Well,
I vaguely remember just a shot going over a dead body, and there's sort of a shirt over it, but it's like it lingers on the boobs, and I just thought,
well, they
Italian bastard.
They all bought a boob cake from the erotic bakery. And and luckily there was like 15 bottles of sour milk there too from the bakery, and they're like, "Okay, great.
You got to have your sour milk."
Yeah, this is the central thread of the horror. I mean, this
might be a T-shirt.
Is kind of in horror. If we put this in horror terms, right? We've had the denouement. We've had the monster has been disappeared. I don't know what, the monster has been removed. The thread has been removed.
Sort of.
So in horror terms, this is like the final scare where we get one last moment where the monster comes back after we think everything has calmed down, right? We've seen that in Friday the 13th, the Nightmare on Elm
every
Street.
movie, yes.
It's a trope.
Yeah.
This is less of a final scare, more a continuation of bad stuff that's happened in
Right?
the movie.
Yeah.
In
It's
every
as
other scene.
if the story is starting all over again, and you just think, "No, motherfuckers, I am checked out.
Yeah,
Done."
and and again, it's like, along with the line, "I'm Sheriff Gene Freak." the I think it's like basically this movie has a punchline, which is, "Do you want some of your mother?" Or what is the punch? What is the final line of the movie?
I don't remember.
It's something like "Do you want some, kid?" Or like, so basically,
But it's a goblin, right?
or they're all goblins. I don't know. I mean,
But it's a goblin
you
saying
tell
it.
me how they got there, and if they can get there, why do they need to bring people to them?
I tell you what, listeners, why don't you tell us how they got there?
How
You're
hashtag
gonna
how did the goblins get there?
Yeah, you're going to have to watch and you tell us. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Troll 2, all about goblins. It's nothing but pure, unadulterated, shitty magic.
Unless you're a sound editor, in which I would say this comes with a trigger warning. You don't record ADR when the sounds that are on screen are louder than the voice you're recording. That's just a
Correct.
general rule.
Good advice. A little just put it in the background of your thoughts.
Yeah. When you start a scene, have a beginning.
We can't do anymore, Tom. We've done all we can for Troll 2, okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Troll 2. I'm mesmerized by how much I enjoyed having to watch this movie. Check it out. Tell us what you think. Find us on Facebook. Find us on Instagram, Twitter. Send us an email to everythingsequel@gmail.com. Tom, say goodbye.
I'm trying to say goodbye backwards. Eberboog. Egaboog. It's almost like Nyborg.
Good job. Bye, everyone.